So as per your analysis, so what is the potential area that can be the hurdle for this much awaited trade, and why you think so?
Thanks, Soikat. Thanks for this opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, you are
Yeah,
perfectly audible.
yeah. Okay, so just to structurize this answer, what I am thinking that if we just classify this in five different categories, there are the major disputes are. So we all know that after Donald Trump comes into the power, so a lot of uncertainty actually prevails in the global business arena. And that is because of his strategies, his commitments while he actually campaigned for his presidential polling, and also some of his long awaiting strategies that he actually needs to, and with his commitment that make America great again. So, from my analysis, what I have seen that there are five key areas where the disputes are still there, and those are to be negotiated properly. So, if I take the name of those areas one by one, so one is the tariff dispute and the reciprocal duties. Second one is the agricultural market access and multiple standards. Those are there in Indian market. Then some of the regulatory and standard barriers. Those are primarily from the World Trade Organization's stipulated guidelines and the international rules and laws of the trades actually determines. Then number four is the intellectual property right and issue related dilemma. And the last one is the political and legal challenges. Now, if I come one by one, the tariff dispute is actually comes under the tariff section of 232, and where you all are aware that US has imposed 26% tariff to India, and the 90 days window that Donald Trump has announced that will end ending in July. Now the question here is that where India imposes tariff and where US actually imposing its tariff. So India imposes at 25% duties on steel, aluminum, and automobiles. Is the US plans to double to 50%. So these 50% tariff that will damage the entire trade relation between India and US. And India actually exports significant quantities of these products to US, and making these tariffs a major barrier. So you have recently have seen that already on steel, India has imposed some reciprocal tariff during the Indo-Pak war, seeing that US behavior and all this stuff. So these are the major areas, the pain points. India imposing steep tariff on US import as well, such as 70% tariff on passenger vehicle, 10 to 20% on networking equipments, and 50% of on rice. So this is basically the Basmati rice. So many of you are aware that India had a long battle legally on Basmati, Texmati, and this intellectual property rights. So on those, India has imposed a steep tariff. US always complaining about that. Now this US also pushing for a gradual lowering of Indian tariffs on key sectors. Like India normally imposes high tariffs on automobiles, and that has gone up to almost 100%. Agriculture on an average 33%, and alcoholic beverage where it is 150%. So those are maintaining a significant obstacle. So that is on the tariff side. Now coming to the market access. So US is eyeing for Indian market, Indian agricultural market for a long time. And many a time they tried with the genetically modified crops, seeds, or genetically modified ecosystem they tried to fit in, so that at least Indian farmers, Indian agricultural ecosystem should be completely dependent on US companies like Monsanto and all. And there a long legal battle has gone. So those memories are still there. In addition to that, US continuously helping India to open up its dairy and poultry market. But India has put a lot of sanitary and phytosanitary certificates requirement that actually reduce the gross import on the dairy and poultry products in India. Simultaneously, there are some religious based leveling like halal certification and all these are. So those makes the entire bit more complex. Now, India actually gives a 10 billion subsidy in the dairy and agricultural sector. And that to protect that large rural population depending on agriculture and making concessions politically very sensitive. And that is why the agriculture is one of the major bone of contention in this entire dealing. Now, I would like to come to the regulatory and standard barriers. So, as I have said at the beginning, that there are certain certificate requirements, those are required, maybe in the form of sanitary, phytosanitary, but there are further multiple electronics components require certification of fitment. Medical devices requires multiple certification to be operating in Indian markets, and these actually create a lot of barriers for the companies like Pfizer, Apple. So these are all known. Simultaneously, India has imposed that schemes like National Solar Mission that restricts the foreign participation and which is conflicting with the US demand for non-discriminatory treatment, which is actually not. But US also not doing that. But still, they are expecting the opposite countries to do that. Then comes the intellectual property right related long battle, historically long battle. So US criticizes India's patent system for slow approvals, weak trade secret protection, compulsory licensing provision, not to allow the generic production of drugs in India. So these are all there. So India always says that the IP law that should maintain a balance between public health that needs with innovation. So US says that you stops innovation by putting restriction in terms of the formulas to be made public and the generic drugs to be produced and all, but they do not like that. But India says that it should have a balance. Otherwise, the weaker section of the society might not have the access to the proper drugs that will heal their diseases. So that is there. And lastly, the political and legal challenges. So there are a lot of fight going on. Section 232 is a major bone of contention now, and currently India and US have a trade volume around $190 billion, which is targeted to be $500 billion by 2030. So those are the hurdles they need to both parties, India and US, need to work upon. Just to quickly tell you about why these hurdles are, what are the justification. So one is the economic protection, that is very much important and understood. Then regulatory sovereignty. If you open the market for a aggressive country like US, who almost produce everything, so it would be very difficult for your domestic market to survive. Your domestic businessman will not be able to compete with US. So WTO opens up the global market that we all know, but there are selective restriction to be imposed just to survive and to maintain a balance. Then political sensitivity, because political sensitivity in the food item, agricultural item, the subsidies, those are being given. Those are all politically sensitive issues. Many of you are aware of that MSP issue. Every year, sugarcane, MSP issue, the sugar prices, every time that creates a lot of hue and cry in the political sphere in India. Simultaneously, the rice production. So US rice, obviously, it's a different genre altogether. But in India, the rice production is not that efficient. But if we discourage that, so obviously it will create a lot of protection issues that our farmers are enjoying. That would be a challenge. Then trade imbalance. US and India have a trade imbalance, and beneficiary is here. India is the beneficiary because unlike China, with US we have a surplus trade balance that actually uh, put US into a discomfort zone. So they wanted to minimize that, but they will never consider the Facebook's business, Google business, Microsoft business that is being done in India. So that digital market they never consider. So now India putting that into forward, and they say that when you are considering the overall trade, you should consider the digital trade as well. Think about how many YouTube earning from India, from Indian market. So all these comes into the picture, and that makes this hurdle a big list. But yes, both of they are working together. So I am hopeful by July 9, something should come up.
If you like the video and my analysis, please like, share and subscribe Nogra Invest channel for more of such informative videos to boost your investment journey. If you are differing with my thoughts and my view and my analysis, please put your thought on the comment section below. Thank you and see you in the next videos.